And they are borders only with Russian land. So they are considered brothers. So, during this time, there is no boundary between Russia and Ukraine. So, Russian-speaking people also are now in the boundary we call Ukraine. When there was already the dismantling of the USSR, they all became states by themselves. They all became nations by themselves. That's why there's already a demarcation between Russian land and Ukraine land. But during the USSR period, there are only one.
The good pastor also delved into the years of persecution of Russian-speaking Ukrainians in Donbas, a persisting problem that has not been covered by the Western media.
So there are Russian-speaking people now who are in the Ukrainian territories. We call Donbas region, which is Luhansk, Donetsk, and other like Zaporizhia or others. They are the ones that are still speaking Russian. Because once upon a time, they were together. And so, now, nagkaroon ng conflict dyan because Ukraine wanted to really become identified by their own culture. Separating them from Russian culture. They went to the extreme of saying, we don't want to hear Russian-speaking people here. Don't speak Russian here. Culture of Russia here. No more, no more, no more, no more. Separate. How can you separate this? These are Russian-speaking people that are in the territory of Ukraine called Donbas. That's why they were persecuted before. And it was not reported in the Western media that these Donbas Russian-speaking people now in the territory of Ukraine have been persecuted. They were bombed by the Zelensky government. 14,000 na yung namatay dyan.
After years of persecution and shelling faced by Russian-speaking Ukrainians in Donbas, Pastor said that the calls for help has long been endured by the Russian Federation under the leadership of President Vladimir Putin.
Nagrereklamo sila ngayon doon kay Putin. Tulungan mo naman kami kasi mga Russian kami. Magkatabi lang tayo. 14 years tiniis ni Putin yan. 8 years ba yun? Tiniis niya. Hanggang sa gumawa sila ng tinatawag na agreement. Si Zelensky initialed it. Yung Minsk agreement. Na they still belong to Ukraine, pero parang autonomous sila.
Pastor Apollo also delved into Ukraine's agonization over Russian culture and language within its social fabric. Based on the 2001 Ukrainian consensus, about a third of Ukrainians have named the Russian language as their mother tongue, and in more recent surveys, the majority of Ukrainians say they speak Russian.
Autonomous, but they still belong there. Pero huwag niyo galawin ang kanilang lingwahe kasi Russian sila, pati yung kultura nila. Yun ang gustong erasin ng Zelensky ng Ukraine. Di doon nagkaroon ng conflict, nag-away na. Dito sila nagpapatulong kay Putin. Ganon din doon sa Crimea. Russian-speaking din ang mga tao doon. Ganon din ang ginagawa. Pine-persecute sila. Kung ayaw niyo dito, balik kayo sa Russia. Paano lang iwan lupa nila yun?
The failure of the Minsk agreements caused by what Pastor Apollo described as meddlers were also among the key reasons as to why the Russia-Ukraine situation spiraled out of control and is now what Europe describes as the largest crisis since the World War II. The good pastor was referring to 2 Minsk agreements that were crafted in an effort to solve the ethnic conflict between Russians and Ukrainians in Ukraine. However, both agreements failed.
Pero pumasok itong tagapaggulo. Ayaw niya. Ayaw niya. Kami susuporta sa iyo. Basta wag yan.
The good pastor said Ukraine has become a proxy war between Russia and the West and how the current leadership of Ukraine was pressured.
Ginawang proxy war ngayon. Siya ginamit. Na-pressure siya. Kasi hindi naman siya statesman o politician. Comedian siya. Nadala. Nang nadala siya, ayun, pinagpatuloy. Hanggang itong mga nagrereklamo, pinapatay. Napuno ngayon si Vladimir Putin. Ang ginawa niya, sabi niya, alisin natin sa isang military operations itong mga nanggugulong mga neo-Nazis. Alam niyo sa World War II, ang Russia at ang Germany, kaaway yan. Pati na yung mga allies. Pero ang maraming namatay talaga para sa World War at ang nakapanalo talaga sa World War, hindi yung British o Amerika, ang Russia. 30 million people ang namatay sa Russia para salubungin lang si Hitler. Sila talaga yung pumasok ngayon nung nagapi si Hitler sa Germany. Kaya sila talaga yung nakagapi kay Hitler. Pero maging mabait pa rin sila, binigay pa rin nila sa allies yung division kung saan sila dapat. Ito yung British, ito yung American, ito yung Russian. Ganon ang nangyari. So, ang nangyari ngayon, nagkaroon ng military operations, special military operation para gapiin ang mga neo-Nazis na sa army na siyang pumapatay sa mga Russian-speaking people. Hindi in-honor yung Minsk Agreement. Hindi in-honor na pinirmahan. Umatras na yung mga Russian noon nung pinirmahan yun nagpagitna itong tagapagulo. Hindi ko na ibabanggitin ng pangalan, baka magalit lalo sa akin. Nagpagitna. Nagpatuloy ang gera. Ang isip ni Putin ngayon, special operation. Alisin sila na gumagapi doon sa mga, at saka ang kanyang kondisyon ngayon is i-release na ng Ukraine itong mga teritoryo ng Donbas na Russian-speaking people. Tapos ang gulo.
Just recently, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said that talks between Russia and Ukraine will not happen as long as Putin is president, and that Zelensky and Putin will never be able to be seen at a negotiating table together. In fact, Ukraine has passed a law banning talks with Russia and reneged on the agreement negotiated in March 2022 in Turkey. The first and probably the last time that Putin and Zelensky met was at the table in Paris together with French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Putin, on the other hand, said that Russia is always ready to negotiate an end to hostilities, but he has already declared that the 4 regions he had annexed have become citizens of Russia forever. Reporting, this has been Angel Pastor, SMNI News.
Negotiations among the claimant nations of the South China Sea will convene here in the Philippines for a meeting to discuss the establishment of a code of conduct. More of this report from MJ Mondejar.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo expressed the prevailing sentiment among countries involved in the South China Sea dispute. During Tuesday's hearing for the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA proposal for the 2024 national budget, Manalo emphasized the government's commitment to peaceful resolution even when dealing with China.
The general understanding among all countries is to try and resolve the disputes to the South China Sea through peaceful means, and even with China.
Amid calls for a more assertive approach from the Philippines regarding territorial issues, Secretary Manalo maintained a composed demeanor. This comes in the wake of the recent incident involving the Chinese Coast Guard's use of water cannons against a Philippine vessel during a resupply mission in Ayungin Shoal. Despite public outrage over the incident, the DFA reaffirmed that the issue must be solved through diplomatic and peaceful means.
We have entered into discussions with them bilaterally that we will try and resolve our disputes through peaceful means and to manage them peacefully, and to focus on areas where our relationship is really very positive.
Secretary Manalo assured that discussions with China are ongoing and that both parties remain committed to dialogue. The claimant countries are now taking steps to prevent the escalation of tensions in the contested waters. The discussions are primarily centered around China and the member countries of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN, which includes the Philippines. According to the DFA, China and ASEAN are set to engage in further discussions to establish a code of conduct on the South China Sea, which is set to take place in the Philippines later this month.
They've already had 2 or 3 significant rounds of negotiation, and in fact, the next round is scheduled to be held here in Manila. So it's in this forum where all the members of ASEAN and China are actually meeting in the same body. The next round of negotiations on a negotiating text will be held here in Manila 22 to 24 August.
Ang nangyayari kasi sa atin ngayon between China and the Philippines is mayroon kang tinatawag na word war. Salita dito ng Pilipinas, salita ng China, so nagsasalpukan ng mga salita natin ng dalawang bansa. So given na nandito yung meeting, it's kind of a way para mag-cool down ang sitwasyon.
Negotiations for a code of conduct in the South China Sea began in 2002. The competing claimant nations include the Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, and Vietnam. The Philippines, for its part, maintains its stance on pursuing dialogue regarding territorial disputes.
On the other hand, hindi lang naman ang China ang problema mo. Kahit nga dyan sa you mentioned being claimed by Vietnam. Spratly is also being claimed by Vietnam. So also talk to Vietnam and to all other claimant states and agreed amicably kung ano ba talaga ang atin at kung anong basis ng atin. Kasi ang atin, to be honest with you, is based on UNCLOS.
For Canada of Philippines, MJ Mondihar, SMNI News.
Thailand and China will hold another round of joint military drills starting this week. Anissa de Guzman has the details.
Air forces, armies, and navies from Thailand and China will stage the Joint Strike 2023 exercise from mid-August to September. The joint army training to be held in Thailand will focus on joint counter-terrorism operations. The drill aims to boost military partnerships and strengthen the anti-terrorism cooperation between the two armies. This is one of the 3 exercises scheduled from July to September. The first phase was an annual joint combat exercise dubbed Falcon Strike 2023, held from July 9 until July 21. For the second phase, special warfare units owned by the Thai and Chinese armies will take part in the Joint Strike 2023 exercise in Lopburi province from August 16 to September. Meanwhile, a joint exercise dubbed Blue Strike will involve navies from both countries and is scheduled to take place from September 3 to 10. Thailand and China have been participating in the Falcon Strike exercise since 2015. Fighter jets made by the United States and owned by the Royal Thai Air Force, particularly F-16 and F-5 fighters, are not allowed to participate in the joint exercise as part of an agreement between the Thai and the United States Air Forces. Disha Anissa de Guzman, Ryan Chakuntep Mahanakon, SMNI News, Pratet Thai, Sawadika.
Meanwhile, days of relentless rain triggered deadly floods and landslides and killed dozens of people in India. Chatmongkon Pisamay Goson reports.
Authorities fear the death toll could still rise as the search continues for people trapped under the rubble after days of torrential downpours that crushed buildings and collapsed bridges in the Himalayas.
More than 60 people lost their lives in the disaster, including 11 others who died when a popular temple collapsed under the heavy rain in northern India. Authorities have appealed to residents to stay indoors and avoid going near rivers. The disaster disrupted roads as well as damaged power lines and communication networks, affecting the daily life of residents. Rescue work in affected areas continues as officials search for those people feared trapped under the rubble. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the recent natural disasters had caused unimaginable troubles for families across the country. Experts have forecasted heavy rains to continue across the Indian Himalayas until at least Friday.
Although flooding and landslides are common during monsoon seasons in India, experts warn that climate change is increasing its frequency and severity, causing widespread devastation among communities. รายงานจากราชบุรีนายชัดมงคลพิสมัยโกศล SMNI ประเทศไทย สวัสดีครับ
Japan's main bullet train services were halted for hours after Typhoon Lan wreaked havoc across the country the previous day. Natsumi Kojima reports.
The direct bullet train services between Tokyo and Hakata stations were suspended in the wake of heavy rains caused by Typhoon Lan the previous day despite the summer season. Typhoon Lan made landfall in Japan yesterday, affecting the western and central parts of the country with heavy rains and strong winds. These include power outages, cancelled flights, road blockages, as well as other means of transportation, causing frustration among travelers. According to its operator, Central Japan Railway Corporated, the rain poured down in parts of Shizuoka Prefecture, disrupting the Tokaido Shinkansen line that connects Tokyo to cities such as Yokohama, Nagoya, and Osaka. Tokaido bullet train services between Shin, Osaka, and Tomio restarted their operations at 2:10 noon time. West Japan Railway Corporated, the company responsible for the western parts of the direct services, announced that it had resumed operations on the Sanyo Shinkansen line between Shin, Osaka, and Hakata stations. Ijo Nihon kara Kojima Natsumi, News Otsutai shimashita. SMNI News, Japan.
Just hours ago, the White House announced that U.S. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will travel to Hawaii and amid mounting pressure and criticism due to the slow pace of the federal government's disaster response. And earlier, former U.S. President Donald Trump slammed Biden over his viral no-comment remarks to the deadly wildfires in Hawaii. Jillian Libwit reports.
U.S. President Joe Biden sparked fury among netizens and political rivals after refusing to comment about the rising death count nor making any plans to visit the devastated families affected by the deadly wildfires in the Hawaiian island of Maui. After spending a couple of hours at a beach in Delaware this past weekend, Biden was asked by a White House correspondent about the rising death toll in Hawaii, to which he replied no comment before heading home. The comment sparked anger among netizens and political rivals, including his predecessor and former U.S. President Donald Trump, as critics questioned why he was vacationing while deadly fires burned Maui to ashes.
When asked about it today, as he was getting into a car, perhaps coming home from the beach, where he has been spending a great deal of time, crooked Joe Biden, the most incompetent president in the history of our country, with a laugh and a smile, said he had no comment on the death and the tragedy. To say no comment is oftentimes fine, but to be smiling when you say it, especially against such a tragedy as this, is absolutely horrible and unacceptable.
Former Hawaii State Rep Mark Kaniela-Ing, a Democrat who now serves as National Director of the Green New Deal Network and campaigned for Biden during the elections, also expressed his shock over the U.S. president's response in a now-deleted post and described the remark as out of character in a separate interview. As the death toll reached more than 100, survivors are facing threats from looters stealing residents at gunpoint in the middle of the night, as well as real estate scammers trying to take advantage of the situation. The U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency warned that identifying the victims of the devastating wildfires will be very difficult because many of the remains have been badly damaged. Meanwhile, the Biden administration faced new criticisms earlier this week after offering victims $700 per household in emergency aid, but announced a $200 million military aid for Ukraine at a time when residents in Maui struggle to rebuild their lives and recover from the loss of their possessions and loved ones. Critics described the sum as insulting and compared it with the more than $113 billion worth of aid the U.S. has sent to Ukraine. In response to the criticisms, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said Biden has interacted with the Federal Emergency Management Agency and said the president is deeply concerned about the situation. In a speech in Milwaukee on Tuesday, Biden vowed to travel to Maui soon without specifying any date and said he didn't want to disrupt the ongoing recovery efforts after receiving a massive backlash for his latest response to the devastating wildfire. The remarks were Biden's first public comment since he delivered a pre-scheduled speech to address the devastation on Thursday of last week. Reporting from New South Wales, this has been Jillian Libowit, SMNI News, Australia.
President Zelensky calls for national unity and backing of soldiers as Ukraine confronts conflict. He also told Ukrainians to stop going to bars and clubs amid the conflict. Here's my report. Survivors of the devastating wildfires in the town of Lahaina returned to charred remains of what used to be their home. Local residents said that their families lost everything in the disaster on August 8, the deadliest U.S. wildfire in over 100 years.
I'd say it's going to take years to rebuild and to come back to dead bodies on the rocks on the beach, bodies in the car. There was a kid underneath a car on Front Street. Looked like his dad was trying to protect him, but they just was burnt. Pets, cats, dogs, just all burnt right in the middle of the road. And then before the fire even got to this side, there were people running towards our house. Like their hair looked like it just got burned, their face was all black. And then they're just all just sweat running towards us. I got an auntie and an uncle, a family of 4. Their daughter and their grandson, 7 years old, they were caught in the fire down there. They were trying to get away, but they were in the car. I guess the telephone just fell in their car and they just stuck inside it, they got burned.
Around 2,200 structures have been ruined or damaged due to the fires in western Maui, where Lahaina is located, according to Hawaii Governor Josh Green, about 86% of which were residential.
It's our home. We've lived here 30 years. Our kids were born here. We just don't know the next steps. Bomb went off. It's the end of all of it. It's gone. It's so weird.
Hawaiian officials had restricted access to Lahaina, while rescue teams continued to search for fire victims. Before they were allowed to return home, Taufa said they had been camping in the field.
We're just camping it out over here, like just waiting for them to give us the okay to go back in and help clean up, just do whatever we can.
At least 17 Niger Army soldiers were killed while 20 others were injured in an ambush in what the Defense Ministry suspects were a terrorist attack. The Defense Ministry on Wednesday said that the Niger Armed Forces soldiers were ambushed on Tuesday while they were traveling between the Boni and Torodi near Kotsugu. Meanwhile, the 20 injured soldiers were evacuated to the Nigerian capital of Niamey. Around 100 terrorists were neutralized and 40 motorcycles were destroyed during a military operation launched in response to the said ambush, as said by the Defense Ministry. The search operation still continues, and the current leadership of Niger expressed condolences to the families of the fallen soldiers and wished a speedy recovery for the injured. North Korea has finally answered regarding the whereabouts of U.S. soldier Travis King, who crossed into the territory last July, revealing shocking reasons as to why he supposedly decided to flee to Pyongyang. But what exactly made him suddenly bolt to the north? Chris Jong has the details.
North Korea said that Travis King, the U.S. soldier who crossed into their territory, dashed across the border from South Korea because of the inhuman maltreatment and the racial discrimination in the army. 23-year-old Private King crossed the borders of South Korea last July 28 while on a guided tour. According to Pyongyang State News Agency, King admitted that he illegally intruded into North Korea and confessed that he decided to come over there due to the inhuman maltreatment and racial discrimination in the U.S. Army. King was reportedly disillusioned at the unequal American society and expressed his will to seek political asylum, either in North Korea or in a third country. On the other hand, Washington says it has confirmed the public statement by Pyongyang. The United States underwent negotiation to retrieve King with the U.S. command that runs the border area that has a direct line of North Korean army. King is a reconnaissance specialist who has been in the army since January 2021 and was in South Korea as part of a military rotation.
potential provocative action, potential activities by the DPRK that can be deemed as irresponsible and reckless, as destabilizing to the region, is one of the many things for why such a trilateral engagement is so important, and why we are taking these steps to further deepen our partnerships with the ROK and Japan.
Before crossing borders, King served 2 months in detention in South Korea due to physical attack and only went out last July 10th. Solely sa Bugo, Chris Jong-imnida, SMNI News, South Korea.
The Women's Active Museum on War and Peace has been working to help the residents understand the military aggression of the Japanese during the Second World War. According to them, they built the said museum to prevent the government from starting another war. More of this report from Kent Hashimoto.
A Women's Activist Museum on War and Peace, or WAM, is the only archive in Japan that has the theme that showcases the issue of comfort women. The museum first opened in 2005. It keeps and showcases historical records about the comfort women issue, including those detailing the comfort women system and testimonies from victims and Japanese soldiers. 179 photos of comfort women victims were displayed in the museum, most of whom have passed away, as marked by the white flower placed on the photos.
1990年代に自らが日本軍兵士から受けた性暴力被害を名乗り出て証言した方々だけになります。でそのうちWAMでこの写真を展示してもいいと了承してくださった方だけなので、この後ろにはもっとたくさんの女性たちがいるということを、このエントランスでは感じ取っていただきたい。女性たちは本当に辛い性暴力被害と、その戦後もやっぱり性暴力被害を受けたっていうことを語ることができなかったり、語ったことで差別を受けたり、大変な思いをしながら生きてきた女性たちで、本当にそういうことがなければこんな人生を歩まなかったっていう人たちだらけですよね。そのためにはその戦争は絶対にしてはいけない。戦争というのができるような国を作らない。そのためのにはやっぱり何が行われたとか、戦争では何が起こっていたのかということを知らなければならない、ということでこの証言をベースにしながら、どのような被害を女性たちが受けたかということを伝えていく、そういう仕事をしています。日本っていう国がやはり侵略戦争をして、その中でたくさんの残虐行為をして、でそれはその日本軍慰安制度だけではなく、中国でもたくさんの人たちが、虐殺をされたし、朝鮮半島で、たくさんの人たちが支配の下で殺されていて、そういう基本的な事実というのをやっぱり、学ぶということをなくして、やっぱり平和なアジアというのを作るということはできないだろうと。
The said archive is believed to be a call of the Japanese people to their country to review its history to prevent it from occurring in the present era. 以上、日本から梨本健太でした。SMNI News Japan.
During the budget hearing of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources at the House of Representatives on Wednesday, the agency's issuance of environmental compliance certificates, or ECCs, for Manila Bay reclamation projects was questioned by several lawmakers due to their potential negative environmental impact. Details from Jade Calabroso.
House Deputy Minority Leader and OFW Party List Representative Marisa Magsino raised concerns about the reclamation projects during the budget hearing in the House of Representatives for the DENR. This comes after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. suspended all reclamation projects in Manila Bay following complaints on August 7th. Congresswoman Magsino questioned the agency's issuance of environmental compliance certificates, or ECCs, for the said project. For instance, the destruction of mangroves, habitat degradation of marine resources, and the loss of livelihood for hundreds of fishermen and their families in the area were highlighted as concerns. According to the Philippine Reclamation Authority, 13 reclamation projects covering around 6,000 hectares of water in Manila Bay were approved and given ECCs by the DENR.
Did we not foresee the complaint negative effects of these projects to the environment of the Manila Bay? Ang nakakalito po kasi, yung pong ating project is to have a clean water. Pero ang ginagawa po ng PRA ay sila po yung nagtatambak for the reclamation. So parang contradicting po. Did DNR coordinate with PRA on this project with respect to the objectives of the Manila Bay Coastal?
In our view, there is a contradiction between the reclamation and the rehabilitation of the bay. If a cumulative impact assessment is not conducted to mitigate the possible impacts of the changes in the environment that the reclamation may actually cause.
DENR is the primary government agency tasked with implementing the 2008 Supreme Court mandamus to rehabilitate and restore Manila Bay for recreational use and the development of fisheries resources.
The reclamation initiatives, Mr. Chair, were a completely separate initiative. And at this point po, in line with the President's directive, we are in fact supporting the assessment of the impact of these proposals on the work of the mandamus. This is the foundation of the cumulative impact assessment. We will be actually making our recommendations once the scientists have completed their study.
According to DENR Secretary Lizaga, the first batch of scientists invited to perform the cumulative impact assessment is led by Filipinos. They will also collaborate with foreign experts for advice, but the team responsible for the assessment will be headed by Filipino oceanographers, marine biologists, and other social experts.
The intention of the suspension for review is to actually conduct what is called the cumulative impact assessment, which means that instead of evaluating each and every project proposal individually, there will now be an effort to create a situation or a scenario wherein all these reclamation projects will actually occur and what impact that would be on the baseline condition of Manila Bay as we know it.
To this, Congresswoman Magsino requested the DENR to submit a written explanation for issuing ECCs for reclamation projects when an impact assessment has yet to be done.
Paano po nangyari na nabigyan po ng environmental or ECC ito pong reclamation project na ito? Kung ito po ay makaka-epekto doon sa inyo pong project na water sanitation, water cleaning, di ba po? In the interest of time po, pakisubmit na lang po.
Secretary Lizaga, on the other hand, assured that they will comply with Congresswoman Magsino's request. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Jade Calabroso, SMNI News.
A lawmaker stressed the importance of ensuring next year's national budget to create equal opportunities for the Filipino people. Troy Gomez has the details.
Senator Alan Peter Cayetano on Wednesday emphasized the importance of ensuring that the 2024 national budget truly reflects the goal of fostering equal opportunities for all Filipinos. Speaking on the second day of the Senate briefing of the Development Budget Coordinating Committee o DBCC on the proposed 5.768 trillion peso national budget for 2024, Cayetano zeroed in on prioritizing the enhancement of the country's education sector as well as funded education system, opened doors of opportunity and enables Filipinos to secure well-paying jobs and a stable future.
All of us are still born in a country na your last name matters. That's why government is there as a second parent, di ba? To try to equalize opportunities. We all siguro agree na pagka yung education system natin becomes number one, talagang gaganda ang buhay ng mga Pilipino. Much more opportunities.
Cayetano cited the example of the city of Taguig's prioritization of education, which has greatly improved the lives of its constituents.
In Taguig, we have 800, 900 million peso scholarship, 88,000 scholars. Wala nang pinipili. Basta pag-graduate mo, automatic 15,000 pesos. Pag honor, 10,000 pesos more. If you're a priority school or course, up to 50,000. So we used to have 20 students in UP Diliman. Now we have at least 700 at any point in time because they get 50,000, no questions asked.
Citing a constitutional provision that directs the state to assign the highest budgetary priority to education, Cayetano asked for the commitment of the DBCC to ensure that the education budget will always remain higher than that of other departments.
can we make sure that hindi siya mas mataas sa total nung tatlo, nung TESDA, CHED at saka DepEd, because we don't want to have to question the BICAM or not vote for it or question sa Supreme Court, no?
For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, Troy Gomez reporting, SMNI News.
The House of Representatives has decided the status of controversial Negros Oriental Congressman Arnie Teves. MJ Mondehar has more.
In a rare occurrence on Wednesday, the House of Representatives has decided to remove a member of Congress from office. The lower house favored the recommendation to expel Negros Oriental 3rd District Representative Arnie Teves. Teves has been linked to the killing of Negros Oriental Governor Roel Digamo. Later on, he was declared a terrorist by the Anti-Terrorism Council. According to the committee report from the House Committee on Ethics, the designation of Teves is a discredit to the House of Representatives. Another significant reason for Teves' removal was his pursuit of political asylum in Timor-Leste, his continuous defiance of the House's order to return to the Philippines, and face involvement in the Digamo Slay case. Also weighing heavily to the House of Representatives' decision was what they referred to as Teves' indecent behavior on social media. The House expressed embarrassment when Teves posted a video on social media of himself dancing on his undergarments. The Constitution mandates the House of Representatives to impose penalties on Congress members playing disorderly behavior. And a 2/3 majority vote of Congress members, or no less than 208 votes out of 312 lawmakers, is needed to expel a member. And during the second plenary session, the House finally decided to expel or remove Teves from his duties as a lawmaker due to his disorderly behavior and violation of the Code of Conduct of the House of Representatives.
With 265 members voting in the affirmative, 0 against, and 3 abstentions, the findings and recommendations contained in Committee Report number 717 on the matter of Representative Arnolfo Arnie A. Teves are now adopted.
Meanwhile, according to a legal expert and a resident legal analyst of SMNI, Attorney Mark Tolentino, Teves' camp may seek recourse in the Supreme Court.
Yes, may option naman si yung legal group or legal team ni Congressman Teves na mag-file ng petition for certiorari sa Supreme Court. But kailangan nilang patunayan na may grave abuse of discretion tantamount to lack or excess of jurisdiction ang ginagawa ng House of Representatives.
With that, according to House Secretary General Reggie Velasco, the camp of Congressman Teves may now appeal at the House Committee on Ethics, the same panel that recommended and pushed for his expulsion. For God and the Beloved Philippines, MJ Mondehar, SMNI News.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. made another warning against rice hoarders and price manipulators and tasked certain government agencies to closely monitor rice prices and run after those who take advantage of the lean months before harvest season. Criseline Catarong reports.
The government has released an update on the country's rice production status with a stern warning against rice hoarders and price manipulators. On behalf of the President, his communication office said these entities take advantage of the lean months before harvest season, which has been associated with reported increases in rice prices in the market. President Marcos Jr. also underscored that the country has sufficient rice supply because the government is collaborating with the private sector to rationalize prices and ensure the availability of affordable rice in the market and Kadiwa stores. The Department of Agriculture reported that retailers are selling rice at various price points. Some retailers sell rice at prices ranging from 38 pesos to 40 pesos per kilogram, with the cheapest varieties priced at 50 pesos per kilogram. In response, Marcos has instructed the DA and the Department of Trade and Industry to closely monitor rice prices in various markets across the Philippines. President Marcos Jr. also welcomed the significant increase in rice production during the first 6 months of the year. During a meeting at Malacañang with the Economic Development Group, Agriculture Senior Undersecretary Domingo Panganiban mentioned a Philippine Statistics Authority report confirming that rice output from January to June 2023 reached 9 million metric tons. This was an increase from 8.7 million metric tons produced during the same period in the previous year and 2021. The rice output also exceeded DA's expectations. With that, the President deemed the 3% growth in production during the same period in 2022 as excellent news. For God and for my beloved Philippines, this has been Cresceline Catarong, SMNI News.
Meanwhile, the Malacañang defended the significant increase in the travel expenses of the Office of the President. Jayne Sancho has the details.
Malacañang assured that the increase in the expenditure of the Office of the President is guided by the 8-point socio-economic agenda and avails of the opportunities to generate more foreign investments for the post-pandemic recovery initiatives of the Marcos administration for Filipinos. The palace made a statement on Wednesday after the Commission on Audit released a report indicating a significant increase in travel expenses of the Office of the President. According to COA's annual audit report, the Office of the President's traveling expenses reached 403 million pesos in 2022, which is equivalent to a 996% increase compared to the 2021 spending of 36.8 million pesos. The palace explained that the 403 million pesos in travel expenses were spent on the Chief of President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., covered both local and foreign trips. As to why the 2021 travel expenses were significantly lower, Communications Secretary Chela Garafil said that 2021 was the height of the pandemic, and at the time, mobility was restricted due to the lockdowns implemented across the country. Garafil added that with the opening of the economy and easing of the restrictions on 2022, President Marcos has started going around the Philippines to ensure that various assistance and programs implemented by the government reach its intended beneficiaries as part of the country's post-COVID recovery efforts. The Marcos administration believes that it is important for the chief executive to make trips across the country to personally see and meet the public, as it will contribute in making important decisions for the country. Garafil added that President Marcos has more foreign trips because of the huge number of invitations he received from other countries to attend certain international events, high-level meetings, conferences, state visits, among others. The palace pointed out that the president accepted such invitations as he knows that the Philippines would greatly benefit from it. The Marcos administration believes that the foreign trips of the chief executive is relevant to elevate the position of the Philippines in the international communities and to build stronger ties in many countries as well as international organizations. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Jayne Sancho, SMNI News.
Australia is set to build a $100 million aircraft coating facility dedicated to creating specialized paints to help fighter jets avoid being detected by adversaries. Deve Suarez reports.
Australia made history after it became the first country to develop a secret technology used by the US military to make its advanced fighter jets nearly invisible to the human eye. The construction of the facility located at the Royal Australian Air Force Base in New South Wales will start in mid-2024. The facility will develop a specialized paint that will be applied to fighter jets, making them nearly invisible to radar. The initiative is critical for Australia's air combat capability, as it will help maintain the stealth of the country's fleet of F-35A Lightning II aircraft. At this point, Australia plans to expand its fleet of F-35A aircraft from 63 to 72. BAE Systems Australia, the aerospace company responsible for the maintenance, repair, overhaul and upgrade activities for Australia's fleet of F-35A aircraft, will run the facility. Australia will be the first country to use the closely guarded secret technology outside the United States. The latest development portrayed a deepening military partnership between Australia and the United States. The ambitious project also came at a time of easing trade tensions between Canberra and Beijing. Reporting from New South Wales, this is Deve Suarez, SMNI News, Australia.
For de-dollarization, India bought 1 million barrels of oil from the UAE using rupees instead of dollars for the first time. Gratero Mori reports.
India and the UAE have officially started trading with each other using their local currencies after Indian Oil Corp, the country's leading petroleum refiner, used the local rupee to buy 1 million of barrels of oil from the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. The move portrayed India and the UAE's willingness to reduce their reliance on the US dollar as the chief reserve currency. The US dollar has dominated global trade and financial markets since World War II, while euro followed in its footsteps in 1999. In the 21st century, the process of de-dollarization has gained even greater momentum with the onset of the trade war between the United States and China. The rising trend of de-dollarization was driven by concerns about U.S. monetary policy, geopolitical tensions, and the rising use of alternative currencies. Aside from India and the UAE, other powerful nations like China and Russia, both members of BRICS, are also keen to dethrone the dollar in response to the aggressive U.S. sanctions and foreign policy plays. Meanwhile, the historic oil transaction using rupees was followed shortly with the sale of 25 kilograms of gold from a UAE gold exporter to a buyer in India for around 128.4 million rupees. The bilateral trade using local currencies happened a month after both countries agreed to ditch the dollar in favor of the rupees. Reporting from Dubai, this has been Gratero Omori, SMNI News, United Arab Emirates.
The Indian Space Research Organization's Chandrayaan-3 gears up for lunar touchdown as the spacecraft is now 163 kilometers away from the moon. Justine Nazario tells us more.
Chandrayaan-3, India's third lunar mission, is on the verge of achieving a momentous lunar soft landing. The Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, has successfully completed critical maneuvers, including firing engines to achieve an intended orbit of 153 km into 163 km. Notably, the propulsion module and lander module are set to embark on separate journeys, with the lander module separation from the propulsion module scheduled for August 17, 2023. The journey began on July 14 with the launch from Satish Dhawan Space Center, gradually rising its orbit through multiple engine burns. A trans-lunar injection burn on July 31 propelled Chandrayaan-3 toward lunar gravitational influence. The craft has since been meticulously lowering its orbit. Chandrayaan-3's primary mission is a lunar soft landing, aiming to conduct in-situ analysis near the lunar surface at around 70 degrees latitude. Comprising a propulsion module, lander, and rover, the mission's combined mass is 3.9 tons. The rover and lander are expected to operate for 14 Earth days, gathering valuable data and performing experiments on the lunar surface. ISRO's meticulous preparation has brought the mission closer to its anticipated soft landing by August 23, 2023, marking a significant achievement in India's space exploration endeavors. Reporting, this is Justin Azaria, SMNI News.
Meanwhile, Malacañang on Wednesday announced that it will suspend public school classes and work in government in Metro Manila and Bulacan for the opening ceremony of FIBA Basketball World Cup. Hannah Jane Sancho tells us more.
The Philippines can expect a long weekend next week. This is after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. suspended classes in public schools at all levels and work in government in Metro Manila and Bulacan Province on Friday, August 25, to give way to the FIBA Basketball World Cup 2023 opening ceremony to be held at the Philippine Arena in Bulacan. According to the Memorandum Circular Number 27, signed by Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin on August 15, the suspension aims to give the commitment of the Marcos administration towards a wider involvement and participation in sports promotion and development. The Chief Executive highlighted the suspension of classes in public schools and work in the government to fully support and assist the Philippine Sports Commission in ensuring safe, orderly, and successful opening ceremonies of the FIBA Basketball World Cup 2023. However, the House clarified that government agencies involved in the delivery of the basic and health services, preparedness or response to disasters and calamities, and or the performance of other vital services shall continue rendering necessary services. On the other hand, President Marcos said would let the private sector decide on the suspension of work or classes in private school. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SMNI News.
One of the students of the Jose Maria College Foundation Incorporated, a Davao-based institution, brings home a silver award after representing the Philippines in the Siam International Math and Science Olympics 2023 held in Bangkok, Thailand. Marian Ambrosio reports.
Jose Maria College Foundation Incorporated has once again showcased the fruits of its assured, consistent, and quality education as one of the school's grade 6 students, Gabriel Drew A. Magsipok, finished with a silver award in the Siam International Math and Science Olympics 2023 held at Bangkok, Thailand. The competition, which took place from August 11 to 14, 2023, drew 109 exceptional students from different countries all over the world, including Hong Kong, Vietnam, Brazil, Azerbaijan, among others. These participants have gone through rigorous elimination at the national level before they are qualified to compete in the final round.
For this contest, I studied the exam and researched all about the topics, which are, some of them are arithmetics, combinatory, etc. I was a little nervous since the questions were a bit harder than I thought, but I was also excited.
JMCFI's Gabriel first competed against students from different schools in the Philippines last March 5, 2023, where he bagged a bronze medal, allowing him to qualify for the international level. Gabriel has always been an outstanding student and shows excellence in his academics. He was awarded with the highest academic grade in their class during their graduation ceremonies last June 2023. Gabriel and his coach expressed their gratitude to the founding president of JMCFI, Reverend Dr. Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, for his unwavering support, especially during the training and preparations, for shouldering their fare, accommodation, and allowance for the said competition.
To Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, I would like to thank you so much, because without you, I could have never gotten here. Thank you so much for providing support for me all the way.
I extend my sincere gratitude to Jose Maria College Foundation Incorporated and especially to our founding president, Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, for the invaluable opportunity granted to both of us to participate in the 2023 Math and Science Olympics held in Bangkok, Thailand last August 11 to 14, 2023. I am grateful for the chance to represent our school.
This is just among the many testaments of JMCFI's commitment to deliver assured, consistent, and quality education. Indeed, JMCFI will never waver in its mission, pursuing excellence in every field as what the founding president, Reverend Dr. Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, has taught. For God and my beloved Philippines, this is Marian Ambrosio reporting for SMNI News.
Just recently, one of the leading banking institutions in the Philippines launched new services that enables its clients swift transactions through contactless payment. Marian Ambrosio is back for more.
East West Bank launches 2 new products, East West Visa Platinum, which promises to give the highest cashback benefits in the market, and East West Pay, a mobile application that enables contactless payment.
So we have 2 new launches today. We launched our East West Visa Platinum, which is, I think, the highest cashback benefits in the market today. So it's market leading. But the other one that we're also very excited about is East West Pay. Ito yung NFC, Near Field Communication, that allows us to make contactless payment. It allows you to make cardless, contactless payment with your Android phone. So we just launched it. It's first in the market. And I think we're very, very proud to be the one to bring it to the Filipinos, no? So we're really looking forward to people adapting to it. So, try it out.
The new East-West Visa Platinum promises a cashback rate of 8.88%, which they claim to be the highest rate in the market today, as well as welcome cash rewards and Visa Platinum privileges. Meanwhile, the East-West Visa credit card holders can transact contactless at merchant point-of-sale terminals using their Android mobile phone instead of their plastic credit cards. Moreover, the East-West Pay app allows users to access on-demand display of the information required to perform e-commerce transactions, view balances and historical transactions, track card spending, and temporarily lock and unlock their card. The bank announced the launching of these two new products in a forum in Davao City, attended by its priority members who are managers, business owners, and professionals in their fields. The forum was also headlined by economist Dr. Bernardo Villegas, who discussed his insights on the present and future economic landscape of the Philippines, especially in Mindanao and Davao, under the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. The forum is the company's way of connecting and getting feedback from their customers to ensure that their services will remain on par with the ever-growing needs of the people.
It's a way for us to get in touch with our clients, but also for them to learn from mga professionals and really luminaries in the field. This evening we brought along with us, we're very happy to have him, Dr. Bernardo Villegas, who, as you would know, is one of the giants in the economic field. So this is very important. It allows us to link up with our clients, but it's also for them to help them plan, really, in terms of their investment opportunities and their viewpoints going forward for the rest of the year.
East-West Bank offers an extensive range of banking products and services. Since 1994, it has rapidly become one of the Philippines' fastest-growing financial institutions. Its expansion is driven by the bank's vision to be a world-class bank, focused on service excellence in its chosen markets. For God and my beloved Philippines, this is Marian Ambrosio reporting for SMNI News.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the message of the appointed Son of God. I believe in the Father Almighty that He will make a miracle for me. And that's all for today's edition of Newsline World. For more news update, you may visit SMNINewsChannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Jayne Codnita. Thank you for watching Newsline World, and thank you to our beloved Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, for the opportunity to be part of this program. May you continue to listen to SMNI as it delivers nothing but fair, truthful, and balanced news, because SMNI is your source of credible news.